The medical bay of the United Galactic Vessel Resolve hummed with a sterile, indifferent energy. In a corner cot, isolated from the bustling efficiency devoted to the allied species, the human soldier simply waited. His name was Leo, a designation rarely used by anyone but the few other humans scattered across the fleet. To the others, the Velt, with their chitinous plates and multifaceted eyes, the graceful, phosphorescent Lumine, the stout, stone-skinned Gron, he was just the broken one. His injury was not visible. No missing limb, no scarred flesh. It was neural, they said. A psi-scanner malfunction during a routine survey on a derelict world had left his simple, primitive brain awash in psychic feedback. No telepathy, no telekinesis, just a permanent, silent scream in a frequency only the most sensitive species could faintly perceive as a headache. He was categorized as non-deployable, a cargo of pity and mild annoyance. Observe the synaptic lag, a Velt medic clicked to a Lumin colleague. A tendril pointing at a holoscreen, displaying Leo's brain activity. The patterns are chaotic, inert. No higher function beyond motor control and basic cognition. A tragic waste of biomass. Leo heard it all. He understood. He simply couldn't react the way they expected. The neural storm had scorched away his ability to feel the sharp edges of emotion fear, anger, joy leaving behind a deep, still pool of calm. His responses were slow, measured. To the fast-thinking, emotionally vibrant aliens, it was a sign of damage, of being less. He was assigned to the sanitation detail of the Temple of Whispers, a cavernous ancient structure on the allied world of Illyria. The temple was a sacred neutral ground, built around the shrine of the unspoken goddess, a dormant entity who had not chosen a vessel in 10 millennia. It was busy work, meant to keep him out of sight. Every day, Leo would move through the grand, echoing halls with his sonic cleanser, polishing the iridescent floors that shimmered with embedded starlight. Pilgrims of 100 species would pass him, their auras of devotion, anxiety, or pride brushing against his quiet mind like colorful clouds against a mountain. He felt them, but they did not move him. The ridicule was never malicious, merely a condescending certainty of his inferiority. A group of ground novices, their gravelly laughter echoing, would purposely track in dust from the meditation gardens for him to clean. The silent creature needs purpose, one would rumble. See how meticulously it works. Like a clockwork toy. A proud Velt Psi Weaver once paused before him, her antennae twitching. "So much noise in your silence," she hissed, wincing. "It is like listening to static from a dead star. How do you live with it?" Leo would look up, his brown eyes meeting hers without resentment, without shame. He would give a slow, single nod and return to his work. This, more than anything, unnerved them. Where was the shame? The frustration? His brokenness was not performative. It was a fact he had accepted, a landscape he inhabited. The day of the grand confluence arrived. Once a century, the most gifted scions of the allied species gathered at the shrine to attempt communion, to wake the goddess and receive her wisdom. The temple thrummed with potent psychic energy. The air glittered with forced tranquility and fierce, competitive hope. Leo was stationed far back, near the great archways, tasked with maintaining the perimeter cleanliness. He watched as the chosen ones approached the shrine, a simple dais holding a smooth, obsidian sphere dot the high Lumin scion extended tendrils of light, his mind a symphony of complex harmonics. The sphere remained dark. The grand stone singer channeled the deep, slow song of tectonic plates. Nothing. The Velt Mind Queen wove a tapestry of perfect, logical thought, silence. One by one, the great and gifted tried and failed. A wave of disillusionment swept through the temple. The goddess remained silent, unspoken. Then a tremor. A rogue psychic surge, a backfire from a desperate attempt, lashed out from the dais. It was a wave of discordant energy, a mental screech that sent Scions clutching their heads, crying out. The polished floor vibrated. A decorative column of crystalline energy near the archway fractured with a sound like a dying star dot. It teetered, a ton of unstable crystal. Directly above a cluster of Grand younglings, who had been shielded from the main surge, but were now frozen in confusion. Before their guardians could react, before any telekinetic could muster their will, a figure moved. It was not fast by Velt standards, nor graceful by Lumin measure. It was a direct, efficient, physical sprint. Leo crossed the distance in a dozen long strides, his cleanser clattering to the floor. He did not shout a warning. He simply placed himself between the falling mass and the younglings, bracing, his face as calm as if he were watching a slow sunset. The column shattered across his back and shoulders in a cascade of blinding shards and wild energy. The impact drove him to his knees, the crystal tearing his uniform, scoring his skin. The psychic backlash from the fractured energy, a violent echo of the injury that had broken him, washed over him. He absorbed it into the silent storm that was his constant companion. It made no difference. Silence, thicker than before, descended. The Grand younglings stared up, their stony eyes wide. The entire assembly, from the lowest acolyte to the high scion, stared at the human kneeling in the wreckage, bleeding from superficial cuts. His expression one of mild assessment. He pushed himself up, turned to the younglings, and did something he had not done in years. He smiled. It was a small, slow, but unmistakable gesture of reassurance. "You are unharmed," he said, his voice rough from disuse, but clear. In that moment, the obsidian sphere on the shrine erupted with light. It was not a gentle glow, but a torrent of pure, white radiance that filled the temple without blinding, a light that felt like understanding, like a sigh held for 1,000 years. It lanced across the great hall, not toward the majestic scions, but toward the archway. It enveloped the broken human soldier. A voice spoke in every mind, a chorus of a single thought, feminine, ancient, and infinitely weary. For eons I have listened to the perfect harmonies, the complex songs, the logical weaves. They were beautiful. They were noise. They sought to impress, to possess, to interpret. They could not hear me, for they would not stop speaking. Leo stood in the column of light, washed clean of blood and dust. His simple fatigues seemed to shimmer. His eyes, still calm, now held a depth that had not been there before, a depth that reflected galaxies. This one, the goddess's voice resonated, thrumming with a profound relief, lives in the silence between heartbeats. His mind is a vast, quiet space where my whisper can finally be heard. He does not grasp. He does not demand. He simply is. And in his broken stillness, I find my voice. The light coalesced, softening, settling around Leo like a mantle. He was not possessed, not controlled. He was accompanied, chosen. The Velt Mind Queen staggered, her psychic senses overwhelmed by the raw, unfiltered presence now emanating from the human. The Lumin High Scion's glow dimmed in humility. The Grand Stone Singer bowed his great head. Leo looked at his hands, then at the gathered, awe-struck assembly. He saw the younglings he had protected, and gave them another small smile. The goddess spoke through him now, her voice a soft undercurrent to his own. "It seems," he said, the words carrying a weight that bent the very air, "the job has changed. The ridicule was gone, evaporated like mist in the dawn of that light. Where there had been condescension, there was now a reverence tinged with fear and awe. The broken soldier, the sanitation worker, was now the avatar, the vessel of the unspoken goddess. He walked through the temple, and where he passed, scions averted their gazes, not in disgust, but in deference. The very air stilled around him. He was given quarters next to the shrine, the most sacred space in the temple. He declined. He requested instead that his old storage room near the sanitation alcove be kept. He continued his routines, cleaning, polishing, but now with the goddess's light gently trailing his movements. Pilgrims no longer ignored him. They sought his quiet presence, finding that in his stillness their own minds grew quiet, and they could hear their own truths more clearly. The High Council of Species came to him, seeking prophecy, strategy, wisdom. He would listen for a long time, his calm eyes on them, and then speak few words. The words were always devastatingly simple, cutting to the core of problems that pages of logical analysis could not solve. You fear loss, so you grasp too tightly. Release your grip. The answer is in the question you are afraid to ask. One day, the Velt Mind Queen, her pride still wounded but her curiosity greater, approached him as he cleaned a seldom-used fountain. "Chosen One," she began, her clicks hesitant. "I must understand. What is it like to hold such a presence within a mind such as yours?" Leo paused his work, looking at the swirling water. The goddess's presence within him shimmered, a comforting weight. "You hear a symphony," he said, his slow voice even. "Every thought an instrument, every emotion a movement. Beautiful, complex, loud." He placed a hand on the water, stilling the ripples. "She was drowning in your symphonies. In me, she hears the silence between the notes. That is where she has always been speaking. You just never stopped playing long enough to listen." The Mind Queen stared, her antennae drooping in a gesture of ultimate defeat and dawning comprehension. The broken human's mind was not a barren wasteland. It was a sanctuary. Its quiet was not an absence, but a canvas vast enough